gentlemen, start your egos. It's
Hi, I'm Nat.
I'm Jenny.
And this is Oscar Bait, your guide to Hollywood's Night of Nights.
It's coming soon.
It is coming soon, and it's very exciting because we finally have the nominees.
Da da da!
All white.
Oscars.
We're not talking about that today.
So what?
So the way it's going to work from now on, now that we have our nominations, is over the next 5 weeks or so, heading up to the Oscars, we're going to take each category and we're going to break it down so that you can go to your Oscar parties with your ballot sheet in the know. Today we're getting started with the technical awards: cinematography, editing, sound mixing, sound editing, and visual effects.
Let's start with something exciting: cinematography. So the nominees for cinematography for this year are Carol with Ed Lockman, The Hateful Eight by Robert Richardson, Mad Max Fury Road by John Seal. We have The Revenant by Emmanuel Lubezki. And, of course, he always has to be involved in the nomination stage. He'll never win. But Roger Deakins got a nomination for Sicario.
So the only one of these I haven't seen is Sicario, but that's probably okay because Roger Deakins isn't going to win anyway.
Always a nominee, never a winner. Always
Yes.
the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Just like Leo. Not this year, though. This is a really, really impressive category.
Strong field.
Very strong field. And it's interesting to see that most of these are very, fast-paced action sort of pictures, but also, with really big, beautiful landscapes. Except for Carol. Carol's, the real outlier here. But this one I really think is... It's a toss-up between Mad Max and The Revenant for me, really easily. And let's look at The Revenant. Emmanuel Lubezki, he's won the past 2 years in a row for Birdman, which was a true feat of cinematography, definitely, and Gravity, another true feat of cinematography. The Academy is going to look at this one and go, this man just puts himself in the most insane situations and captures something just truly beautiful. And one of the real things The Revenant has going for it is how beautiful it is.
It's the only thing I think it has going for it.
And to me, ouch. And to me, that opening, even just that opening battle in The Revenant, that is one shot.
Amazing.
Is so impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
That is worth it alone almost, let alone those beautiful nature shots that just make you
It's a screensaver.
Yeah.
Oh, I want it as a screensaver.
So I think unless the Academy starts leaning towards Mad Max more, The Revenant's got this one.
Well, that's an interesting point, and we'll probably be getting into Mad Max a little bit more later down the track when we break down directing. But Mad Max, I think, could do a few little sneaky steals in the technical category. So I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it. Because also it is also very impressive and beautiful landscapes in Mad Max. Interesting to see.
Visual effects. So the nominees for this category are Ex Machina, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, and Star Wars The Force Awakens. So this is really cool. Very cool to see Ex Machina get a nod in this category.
Very cool, and very well deserved, I think, as well, because this one, arguably, all of the other ones use visual effects in sort of a landscape world way, but Ex Machina is the only one where it's a character thing, and without it being absolutely nailed, the movie wouldn't have worked as effectively as it did. So, and obviously, I think I've already made clear that Ex Machina I'm a big fan of. So,
a little bit biased.
I would love to see this one take it, but don't think it will.
I think there's a lot of merits to be given to. I mean, Star Wars is the big blockbuster that's a popcorn movie here.
There's always
a
one
quality popcorn movie though. Sometimes Transformers gets nominated in this category.
Yeah, there's always going to be some of the shit movies in this category.
To me, I think one of the most impressive film in this category is, for me, Mad Max Fury Road. Because the way that it combines practical effects and visual effects to just make it look so stunningly real. If you do some of the behind the scenes looking at the way they made Mad Max, it's so impressive.
And especially because there's no stunt category at the Oscars, which is always a contentious point. The stunt work sort of falls into visual effects because it is part of the, as I saw earlier, the visual illusion. So yeah, and that's Mad Max Fury Road, out of these, by far had the best stunt work and visual effects in that creating the world thing.
Absolutely. But how good was The Martian?
But you know what? It always goes... well, we're in a trend at the moment of big space movies taking out this category. So I think it's between The Martian and Star Wars, unfortunately. And I think Star Wars is too popcorn, so it'll go to The Martian. That's my gut feeling.
Sound editing and sound mixing. Jenny, I don't think a lot of people know the difference. Do you want to explain?
Well, I can't say that I've got it, perfectly down. But to me, the difference is that sound editing encompasses sort of the design of what sounds go into the film. So if you were sound designing the scene of Nat and Jenni sitting on the couch, sound editing is, the sound of your fabric and the hair. Maybe we'd choose to put a radio playing in the background or something. That's sound editing to me. Whereas mixing is the effect in cinema. So the levels and the surround sound and where they choose to place the sounds when you're sitting in the cinema and watching the film. Sometimes, and Tarantino and Scorsese are really good at this with music. The music will sort of come in at a really loud, like abrasive volume, and that would be a sound mixing choice. So they do overlap, but they do have their sort of different worlds that they play to.
With that being said, the nominees for sound editing are Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Sicario, and Star Wars The Force Awakens.
So sound editing is sound design, so that's the choices. So how do you feel about these? Because they're all pretty strong players, I would say.
I think they are too, but I think for this one, it's like, if you look back through the history of what has won sound editing in the past, it's a lot of things with bullets, funnily enough. I guess it takes a lot to make those sorts of decisions about like how action scenes sound, and they're difficult decisions to make. So if Star Wars is not going to win anything else, it might actually win this.
I reckon you're right with that one. It has such a history of sound, so it has that, like the lightsaber is such an iconic sound, and the blasters are an iconic sound, and the Millennium Falcon. So, to be able to bring Star Wars back and still hit the nail on the head, it's a pretty good effort. Also, it had the Willem scream in it at one point. I definitely heard that. Sound mixing, however, I'm usually a bit better at gauging sound mixing, I think, because it's about the feeling and the emotional effect of sound. And as you can see from the history, a lot of times if there is a real music heavy hitter movie, that's the one that will take sound mixing. This year, the nominees are Bridge of Spies, Mad Max Fury Road again, The Martian again, The Revenant again, and Star Wars. Bridge of Spies is sort of I'd say that's a write-off, really. Unexpected choice.
Yeah. I don't know. This one is actually quite difficult, so I'm not knowing as much about it. Like, I was impressed by the mixing in The Revenant.
I would put my money, actually, on this one on Mad Max Fury Road, because I've just remembered about the Doof Wagon.
Oh, yeah.
So our final technical category that we're going to take a hard look at today is film editing, which is everyone seems to have an opinion on editing because it is quite a visceral, visual thing that a lot of people can pick up on.
It's also essential to film.
The editing is actually the final step of directing.
It's basically the structure award.
So the nominees for film editing this year are Hank Corwin for The Big Short, Margaret Sixel for Mad Max Fury Road, Stephen Mirioni for The Revenant, Tom McArdle for Spotlight, and Marianne Brandon and Mary Jo Markey for Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Yeah, so it's an interesting lineup, but editing always is, because it usually can be like a mix of action movies, of dramas, there's a comedy in here, which is pretty interesting.
The thing about editing that's interesting to note is that a lot of the time it'll be sort of a bit of a flashy edit that will impress. So a good example of that, I think, is probably The Social Network, which was a fabulous film, but it did have those few scenes that you could tell were sort of tricky to edit or definitely an editor's dream. So those are the ones that I was trying to look for in this list. But this year there's none that really, like, jump out as, like, having any of those moments.
I think, and if you're going for speed, it's probably Star Wars. But if you're going for story structure, it's probably Spotlight. But if you're going for, the juxtaposition of ideas, because for me that was one of the most impressive parts of The Revenant. And you don't totally agree with me about this.
That's fine.
But with The Revenant, I thought it was very impressive the way the film constantly has this theme of looking at real close-up brutality and then juxtaposing it with these beautiful establishing, these very, extra wide shots of beautiful scenery. And I think that was a point where you could say there's the power of editing. It
is the power of editing, but I feel like that was a directing choice. And you have to remember who's going to be voting for editing awards. It's going to be editors. And they will be impressed by good editing. And The Revenant was amazing, structurally, but I don't think, I don't totally agree with that sentence, but for what you're talking about, yes, it did do that very well, but I feel like it won't impress the editors enough. I'm going to go with Mad Max for this one. Mad Max gets you excited without having, too much to it. And I think actually what made that happen was, yes, the world and everything that George Miller's built, but the editing, I think, probably just, nailed it so that you were excited. Whereas the others, I don't think, had enough of a flashiness. As somebody who does a lot of editing in my day-to-day life, if I was voting for these awards, I'd be like, yeah, Whiplash, yeah, Mad Max, because it was really sick, bro. So not be like, yes, the symbolism. So it's interesting. I think it's an interesting category, and it shows how important editing is to the art of a film.
Absolutely. So that's what we thought. What did you think? Leave your thoughts and reviews below, and you can catch us next time. We're going to be taking on another one of these categories all the way up until the big awards day.
Catch you soon.
Later. It's actually a big action year, just in general.
That's true.
A lot of the Best Picture nominees are also big technical ones.
Big action fun. But also those are the kind of ones that sort of sweep in and impress at the last minute to take over. Such as Gravity, for example. That was one that was here I am, I'm the big star, I'm big, I do things. And
That's
everyone's
true. We love you.
Until a year later.